Hi there. It's time for story time with Nonna again, but I'm not in my usual place. So I traveled to New Orleans, Louisiana, which is way, way, way down on the Gulf of Mexico. And it's a very different place than living in Michigan. So I wanted to show you a little bit of where I've been staying. This is just the hotel room. But I have a great view of the Mississippi River. So I want to show you that. Oops. There we go. And there's been big ships that have been traveling on the river the whole time I've been here. So, yeah, you can see how the river curves over there. So New Orleans has a lot of stuff going on in this town. And they have storybooks just about New Orleans, of course. So I'm going to read you one of those stories. Okay? All right, here we go. The Bourbon Street Band is back. So Bourbon Street is where they have the big parties for Mardi Gras. So you might have heard of that, or you will. So, okay, let's start that. Look at that. It's a signed book. Didn't even know that. It says, "Keep the music in your heart, Bobcat Bob." And look at that, part of the money goes to the New Orleans Musicians Association Foundation. So it's a good thing. Okay, let's read about New Orleans and Bourbon Street. Okay. It says, "The Bourbon Street Band is back" by Ed Shankman and illustrated by Dave O'Neill. Looks like fun. Okay. Ever since the cavemen hummed, the mermaids sang, and the natives drummed, there's been music in the air, and you could find it everywhere. Bands were roaming near and far, from Mexico to Zanzibar, from Iceland to the Ivory Coast, and all the places you like most. There were bands in Greece and France and anywhere that folks could dance. Just find a map and pick a spot. There was no place that bands were not. And though the bands were very good in every land and neighborhood, the very best would make their way to New Orleans in the USA. Look and see, there's all the pictures of all the bands everywhere around the world. And this is Bourbon Street in New Orleans, Louisiana, in the USA. That is where the great bands met. And one was even better yet. It was the grandest of the grand, Bobcat Bob and his Bourbon Street Band. There we go. Bobcat Bob and his Bourbon Street Band. Oh, that looks like him. The Bobcat wore a cool French hat. He wore it forward, straight and flat. When someone wears a hat like that, you know that must be one cool cat. He had attitude and catitude. Look at that. He does look like one cool cat. While Bobcat Bob attacked the drums, the snapping turtle snapped his thumbs. Warblers warbled and catbirds meowed. And kingbirds led, and the cowbirds mooed. On the horns were 3 raccoons, a crawfish, and a pair of loons. On several of the lighter tunes, a frog sat in to play the spoons. To help old Bobcat keep the pace, a gator played the stand-up bass. Those players really rocked the place as sweat poured down that gator's face. Well, this is a fun book, isn't it? Look at that. So many pictures. Look at all that. Oh, Bobcat Bob. There's an alligator and everything. They have alligators down here in Louisiana. Those who heard them say they played like lightning mixed with lemonade. And that, I think you will agree, is just as good as a song can be. When players play like that, you know, word's bound to spread about the show. Soon people came from miles around to hear them make their special sound. Look at that. Wow. That's so cool. How fun. The band played fast and it played loud. The louder it played, the bigger the crowd. A song might start out sweet and mild, then came the drums and the crowd went wild. I wish you'd seen them on the stage back when they were all the rage. They played the wind, they played like wind, they played like fire. They raised the roof and raised it higher. Wow, that's so cool. Those are great pictures. Okay. They played all night and weren't done till morning came and they raised the sun. They raised it up with a sound so bright it washed away the dark of night. Not every band can raise the sun, but one that can is lots of fun. So people cheered with sheer delight and somehow all the world seemed right. Look at that, they raised the sun. Man, oh man. Look at that, there's everybody cheering. That is until a certain show one certain night, not long ago, when halfway through a happy song, it seemed that something went quite wrong. The music stopped. There was no sound. The people gasped and looked around. Somehow it seemed a change had come that stopped the bass and hushed the drum. It hushed the loons and 3 raccoons. It hushed the frog who played the spoons. And all the others on the stage were silent as an empty page. Then Bobcat Bob took off his hat and left the stage in seconds flat. And just like that, without a choice, the great New Orleans lost its voice. Aw, that's really sad. Aw. Huh, he took off his hat and he just left. I wonder what happened. And with the music went the sun. Without the band, it came undone. It slid back down below the ground and darkness rose up all around. The whole world watched as silence came and all agreed it was a shame. What was the cause? Who was to blame? Would New Orleans ever be the same? For months the sun stayed out of sight, and through those months of endless night, through all the time that darkness stayed, no songs were heard and no notes were played. Of course, without a music show, the people had no place to go. They stayed at home and locked the door and wished that things were like before. Looks like a very sad time. There they are. They're all just in their houses. Now, life is strange and things can change. Sometimes they simply rearrange. Some go from good to bad, it's true, but they can change for the better, too. And that is what occurred the day that music found a way to play. Oh, that's good news. It started with a single beat. Tap. They heard it out on Bourbon Street. Then another tap. Then a third tap. And then they say a fourth was heard. Tap. Wow. Yay. That's good news. Phew. I was worried. Oh, look at that. That's beautiful. Okay, let's see what happens. Oh my goodness. Out in the dark, these beats were beated. Some just once and some repeated. It was a drum. There was no doubt. The drum was calling people out. A drum was saying, "Come out here. Ignore the dark and have no fear." The people heard it loud and clear and soon began to gather near. Oh, yay, there's the taps and people sticking their heads out and saying, "What the heck? What the heck is going on? Look." Then it kept coming and drew everybody out of their houses and said, "It's okay, come on out." And who do you suppose they found pounding out that drumming sound? Was that a cat in a cool French hat? It was Bobcat Bob they were looking at. And as the drum picked up the pace, the gator joined with his stand-up bass. And soon the horns began to blare, and then sweet voices filled the air. And somewhere just behind the looms, there seemed to be the sound of spoons. These players clearly had the knack. Bob and his Bourbon Street band were back. Oh, yay! Look at that. There he is, Bobcat Bob. And there's the Bourbon Street band. They're all back. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. In fact, the band seemed even more exciting than it was before. The notes were sweet and strong and clear. They shook the heart and they kissed the ear. They rose those notes like flames and sparks. They floated through the streets and the parks. They reached so high and went so far, you could have heard them on a star. And what was that off to the right? What thing could be so big and so bright? It lit the sky and it warmed the air. What was that giant thing up there? What do you think? I bet you could guess. There it is. They're all playing. And oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The sound could reach a star. The sun, they cried. And it was true. At last, the sun was shining through. A brilliant ray that brought the day and made the darkness run away. Wow, look at that. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Now other bands were playing too, and bigger crowds came into view as thousands danced and sang along in a great parade of sun and song. Oh, wow. We're having a huge parade. Look at all that. Wow, that looks like Mardi Gras, doesn't it? Now bands took turns and people cheered. They cheered each time a band appeared. They clapped for every song they knew, and then for every new one, too. It's good to cheer with all your might, and those folks clapped a lot that night. But the biggest hand in all the land went to Bobcat Bob and his Bourbon Street band. Look at that. I'm so glad the music is back. That's wonderful. And that is the end of the story of the Bourbon Street Band is back. Yay! So glad. glad. Hey, let's look at some more boats if we can. Let's see if anybody's out there. You don't see any on the river right now, not any big ones. They're expecting lots of storms. Oh, there was a big one, way far away. They're expecting storms, so that's probably why there's not so many. So now you know a little bit about New Orleans. I hope you get to visit there someday soon. Okay, bye.